lords and ladies, and welcome to a Cornish first look at Dwarf's Adventure. It is a roguelike dungeon crawler, developed and published by Eskimo Games, who have sent this to me to basically do a first look. One thing I should say is this game is an exceedingly early access, so just be aware of that fact. First of all, let's check out the options. So you have a whole range of different options, different language options as well, which is nice. I normally prefer a breakdown menu, like so you can see all the options without having to flick through them, but not too bad. We have stable tutorials, enable retro graphics. It's still really in early access, so expect a lot of this stuff to change given enough time. So, what is Dwarf's Adventure? I dive in and show you. I'm going to do the basic first adventures to sort of show it off, and then we will do first come, first serve. Well, let's actually do first come, first serve, which is a relatively take all that you can find. Only that way you find the exit. So the general feel of this game is that basically you have a generated map mission, and your goal is to complete the objectives and escape. So it's a very much a interesting game. It's basically more like a puzzle game than a roguelike, if I'm being honest at this stage. But let's dive in and just show it off. So this is a very basic first dungeon. Your first adventure, good way to check your skills. Dungeons can be dangerous, but hey, you've got this. Examine all the surroundings, watch out for enemies and traps. So basically, I'll show you what the game is like. It's, as I said, it is in early access though, so take this with a hint of salt. First adventure, once again, they basically say the thing that the introduction we said at the beginning of the game, which I do think they need to sort of spice up a bit more, give you a bit more justification for why you're here. So basically, this is how the game works. This is your stamina, this is your health bar, here are your stats. Here is the map, your inventory, ability to search for traps, open the world map, objectives for the level, and exit from this level to the main menu. Now, the way the game works is that you basically click and your character moves. And that's all you really have to do. You can use the mouse keys, you can use the keyboard keys, or you can the keyboard arrow keys, or you can use the mouse to basically command them to move. They automatically pick up equipment. You can decide if you want to use it or not. Here is basically its attack stats and how much stamina it uses each time you use it. Your stamina goes down. Your stamina goes down every time you move, and you run out of stamina, your health starts to go down. And once you run out of health, you die. Now this is the thing. This game, the reason I say it's more like a puzzle than anything else is that you're trying to complete the map before you run out of stamina and run out of health, which will require you to do certain things. For example, here when we fight, we're basically rolling attack die. We've got some stamina for that. Excellent. You basically fight. It costs stamina and health to fight, so most of the time, unless you have to fight monsters, you want to avoid them to save on your stamina, which is a very limited resource. Let's see what we've got on here. Tall. So let's chug a couple of basic stamina potions. We're going to fight the spider. Yeah, let's fight the spider. But yes, as I've said, this game is still in quite early access. So there are some things just you have to consider about that. If I'm being honest, I do like the style of game, though I do wish it had a bit more depth to it. It is very much, you just sort of you don't really go around the room. It's always just following a line, and the rest of the room is decoration, which is feels a bit of a shame, a bit of a wasted opportunity. Also, just the reason I say it feels like a puzzle more than a roguelike is that there's not a lot of ways that you can actually get around the map. Like if there's a door with a key, you can't hack the key. You can't hack the door down. You just have to find the key. So it's one of those things where it feels more like stat management. Like basically you're trying to balance out your resource usage rather than anything else. For example, everything costs resources. Like opening your pack in the description of the game, opening your pack and taking stuff out costs stamina, but I haven't noticed it doing that in the game yet. Okay, stamina for actions, reduce stamina need for actions. Okay, how long does that last? That uses less stamina for actions. Fantastic. Don't need to use that yet. That's all equipped. But this is the thing, which is that from the several of the maps I have played, it's all relatively... You're trying to get... It's basically a risk versus a reward, which is something very typical for roguelikes, which is that you're trying to maximize the encounters, well, maximize your rewards with limiting your basically your encounters. See, that kisses for stamina. Stable trap. We'll use a medium potion. And that's fine, but it just feels very limiting. There's not a lot of... Like, for example, in one of the other maps there is a door which is locked. You can't pick the lock, you can't smack through the lock, but literally the next room over there is a key, because there has to be a key, because there's no other way to get through the map. That's why it feels more like a puzzle. You're desperately trying to conserve your resources to complete the level, rather than it being like a true roguelike where RNG and sort of tactics and decision making comes into play. It's more like, okay, how can I approach this puzzle in the best way to succeed? Because this is how I win. See, this is how it is. I've got to the exit now. I don't need to do anything else. I can just go to the tunnel and I'm out. And that's it. We're done. We don't get any experience for that. We don't get any items going into the next level for that, because obviously this is still really early access, so I don't even know if that will be added. So it's one of those things where you just have to... It's basically like figuring out how maps work. That's the best way I can say about it. So here, we know how stamina works in the game, yeah? So we're going to look at this map that we're going into. And if there's a door or something here, we know pretty much certainly there's going to be either a key here or key here. And the thing is, seems to pure action for me, I want something where I can find level out with my skills. And here there are traps, enemies, and relics. It contains it all. So here's the exit here. So what we really have to do is that, because it's a relatively linear map up until this T-junction here, once we get down to this T-junction, all we have to do is just walk here and we're done. So it's one of these things with this game, it's still in such early stage of development that it's really hard for me to basically make any decisive comment on it. I would say that I like the art style. I do like the music. It has a lot of promise, that's what I will say. Though I will say that it just needs more. It just needs more of everything. It needs to be more like a roguelike, because as it stands right now, it feels more like a puzzle game rather than a roguelike. So it's one of those things where... No, I don't need to use it just yet. It's one of those things where, like here, see? We need to get a key, because we can't get through the door any other way. So we have to look for a key, but because of how we've seen it on the map going in, we know that there's going to be literally a key right here. That is one thing I do dislike about this game, though, is that when you open the chest, you then continue on to the end of the corridor, which is fine, except the fact is that when you're going to the end of the corridor, you're still burning stamina. So it's one of those things where you suffer a lot of resource loss, a lot of stat loss, purely for actions that you cannot control. So here we go. Another encounter. I would like a level up system or something where you basically get items or get stat increases, something that makes your situation better. Because right now, you really heavily rely off, you completely rely off just picking stuff up. So it'd be nice to have a little bit more, like item variation. I do like the fact that your armor changes, which is very nice. Yeah. And we'll keep going. We know there's a key here. The pathway going up is the way we need to go. Nasty looking elf. Yeah, and this would take us into basically a massive labyrinth of rooms unless we basically stay going this way. But see, as you can see, we need potions. And we need supplies. There we go. But I mean, this is the thing about this game. I have died before in this game purely because you open a treasure chest, you keep moving, and you run out of stamina before you can enter your inventory to drink the potions. Just something that I do find a bit frustrating. I am not going to lie. What do I think about this game? About Dwarf's adventures, the Dwarf adventure. I like it. I think it has a lot of promise. Is it perfect? No. Does it need to have more content? Yes. It definitely needs more content to be added. It needs to be more roguelike and less puzzle orientated, which is my main issue I have with the game. Is that it doesn't feel like a puzzle game. Well, so it doesn't feel like a roguelike. It feels basically like a puzzle game where you're trying to find the optimum route through an area. So let's pop this. Now we can go all the way back there, but that would take too much stamina, so we're going to have to fight our way through. We get anything out of that? No. Now out of stamina. So now we're going to start using up health. Please let there be a potion. Nope. Okay, then we've probably lost this run. Unfortunately, this is just how it is. Because you can see what I mean, because this game becomes very... It becomes very much like this, where it's... If you don't do the accents in the right particular way, you're basically done for. And there's not a lot we can do about it. I don't know, it just, to me, as someone who's played a lot of roguelikes, this feels less like a roguelike and more like a puzzle game that has roguelike elements. So there should be a T-junction coming up. There we go, T-junction. Then we go down here. This pathway should lead us all the way. We follow it down. So you get to the exit. It just feels more like a puzzle rather than a roguelike. That's just how it feels to me. Maybe because it's so early in its development cycle, it still needs to have more roguelike elements added. Armor key. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's not great because I'm not going to go back. I mean, this is also one of the things I do like. The amount of stamina you lose is ridiculous. So like if you get a key here, there's no way that I'm going to go back and get it, because there's no point. I haven't got the stamina to do it, I don't have the health to do it. So it makes little to no sense for me to actually retrace my footsteps. You don't want to in this game, to be honest. You want to purely just sort of keep moving, which is something that I know that can be a hallmark of roguelikes. And here we go, we died. We know the exit's down there, but we didn't kit ourselves up enough to basically get through the final encounters. But that's the thing I was saying. As much as Dwarf's Adventure is a game that has a lot of promise, it still suffers some issues that I dislike. One is that your stats degrade too quickly. So it means that backtracking is pretty much a massive, massive resource waste. But as you can see, certain maps will have enemies in locations where you have to fight them to get through, so you need to have either better kit or you need to have... Well, you pretty much need better kit, to be honest, because you can't access potions mid-battle, which is something I dislike. You can't heal mid-battle, so if you basically go into a fight and you're not equipped enough for the fight, you will lose. And then you have to start all over again. Other thing is, all the already made maps, all these pre-made maps, are not randomized. They are forever going to be this layout. So you know exactly where the layout is of where things are. Which is fine. It does mean that coming back and like replaying them isn't really as interesting in my experience. I don't know if they want to add more randomization to the maps. You can make your own maps, but I haven't really dived into that. I'm not really one of the people that likes to make dungeon maps for the dungeon crawlers, to be honest. I like the art style. I like the fact that your equipment changes when you equip it to your character. I like the music. I think the music is quite good. So I do believe that Dwarf's Adventure has a lot of potential, but I think it really needs a lot. It definitely needs a lot more polishing. It's still in really early access, so that's understandable for why it's so rough. But I think that it just needs to have more roguelike elements put into it, and for it to feel less like it's a puzzle game. Because for me, it feels less like a roguelike and more like a puzzle game. Especially with the fact that there's not enough randomization, there's not a lot of change to maps. Like once you've gone through a map a couple of times and you've got a good enough memory, you can remember pretty much where everything is. So you can plan a strategy around that to get through, but it's one of those things where I don't know, it just feels like they're aiming for one thing, like they're aiming for it to be a dungeon crawler roguelike, but at the moment it feels more like just a puzzle game. Where your stats and stuff are just parts of the puzzle that you have to overcome. But that's just me. I've been Cornish-knight. This has been Dwarf's Adventure. If you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description below for the game, and I shall see you all again next time. Goodbye.